what do you think makes a good golf coach? Because obviously there's a name on my subtitle of my brand is Better Golf Without Swing Changes. I am not against coaching at all. I've had amazing coaches over the years. It's just not my specialty. So when players are looking to work with someone, what do you find are maybe two or three things that, solid coaches that you've worked with have in common and can really kind of help guide players on the right path?
I think the best of the best are adaptable. I think that from a coaching standpoint, they're able to look at different swings, different patterns, and understand the way that that player maybe started out playing as a kid. I like to explore that history with a player when I first meet with them. Who was their first coach? What were the fundamentals they were taught? What was their picture of the golf swing? Did they have Jack Nicklaus's golf swing or Frank Nobilo's golf swing or Johnny Miller's golf swing? Who were their idols? Because those are going to be the things that as kids that we gravitate towards those patterns. Freddie Couples and Davis Love were kind of my idols when I first started playing. So everything that I mimicked came from them. And so I think that's important to know a player's history. So I think that's a big part of being a really good coach, especially at the highest level, is the adaptability to not have a swing model, but to understand patterns of different players. And then to be curious about the individual. I think that's one of the cool things about coaching our sport is that, a lot of people don't know this maybe from a listening standpoint, but I don't get to say what time we're showing up tomorrow. And I don't get to say as the coach what time practice ends. Normally when you go, you're playing on a basketball team, practice is at 8:30 in the morning, be here no later than 8:15, be dressed, be ready to go. The coach says that. Then at the end, he tells you when you can go home. As a PGA Tour coach, they basically tell you when they're going to show up and when they want you here, and then you're only done when they say you're done. So
Right.
that part of it's very different from a coaching standpoint. You are managing situations. Tournament weeks on the PGA Tour are huge from the management standpoint. Just knowing when you need to say something and when you don't. I had a opportunity to say something today when I was asked. I was, luckily ready for the question and had an answer. And I think that's what a lot of the good ones do is they're not holding things back, but making sure that when they do say something to a player of this level, that it's meaningful. And they don't just say things just to say things. If you're trying to make yourself important to the player, I think that's a bad way to go about it. They'll realize how important you are, but if you try to make yourself important to the player, it's a huge mistake in my opinion. And I think the best of the best out here really do a good job of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you got to kind of remove the ego part of it, and obviously you're there to help them out, but not overwhelm them. I think I heard you in a different podcast talking about that too. It's kind of a push and pull, right? You want to provide value, but you don't want to obviously reboot their swing. They've gotten to that level. What does that look like for a tournament week, and how can everyday golfers use that for a member guest they have coming up or their club championship? Because I feel like to me, I see a lot of players go on these YouTube binges or they try and get all the content, the week before, and they think more swing thoughts is going to lead to better golf or being more prepared. So how do you kind of manage that with the pros, and how would you recommend the everyday golfer do the same?
I think it's a great question, and comparing and contrasting. I think my book fills up at Jupiter Hills the week before member guests really
Sure.
quickly. Everybody wants this, they want that, and they want it quickly, and they want it now, and they want it to work all weekend. And we really should have been building up, for member guests, 4 months before member guest ever came. We should already. It'd be like giving a quarterback a playbook the night before a game and saying, "Hey, study this, and when I call a play, let me, run the play I want you to run." That playbook in a good coach-player relationship, that playbook's established, months in advance. It's established in the off season, and it doesn't mean that we don't veer from the playbook a little bit, but our playbook's pretty strong. Lucas Glover and I have been together for several years. We have a pretty strong playbook. And if he ever says something that's kind of outside of our playbook, my ears perk up even more because he's feeling something different. We've never talked about this, and here he is bringing it to my attention. I think that's kind of the fun part sometimes. is that when something's a little off the reservation and you have to discuss it, that's where the push and pull and the give and take of any good player coach relationship happens. And I enjoy that part of it because I enjoy partnering with players. Another player that I had this week, we haven't been together a terrible long time, just since right before the Masters, we started working together to see if it would be a good fit. It's been a good fit so far, but he's in a very different place. We're developing our playbook. And this week on site, we're saying, hey, these are the plays we're going to run, and let's just stick to it instead of bouncing around this idea or that idea. We're here. We can bounce those ideas off of each other in Jupiter on an off week. But since we're here, let's stick to the couple of things that we know we can run, and let's just ride them hard. And then we'll regroup next week, and we'll take the good or the bad, and we'll dissect that a little bit. Then we'll put it back in. This worked, and this felt good. Man, this sounded really good, but I couldn't make it work on the golf course. Those are learning things, especially new in a relationship. Those are the things we have to share.
Yeah, that's a, like you said, you got to kind of develop that relationship and not introduce too much. So what are some things that like the best players in the world are thinking about during tournament weeks? Is it a swing thought, a setup thought? Is it a feel? Like, is everyone a little bit different? Like, how do they, get maybe the anchor that they need without the overwhelm?
Well, I think, and this goes back to the original question too, and what your audience can do. Like with all of my guys, we call Monday, it's home base. So on Monday at a tournament site, and this is where a lot of amateurs get off, they don't have a strong enough home base. And what I mean by that is, when we get here and we've flown in Sunday night or Monday morning, and these are our first golf balls on the range that week. It's all the simple fundamental stuff. Is the ball in the right place? Is our posture good? Is our alignment good? Have we checked our grip and club face? Just all of these little tilts and bends. Because no different than the rest of your audience, tour players, while they're very, very good at what they do, they usually make home base mistakes because they weren't paying attention to it. And once they make the home base mistake, the ball doesn't fly exactly the way they want to. And then you can start seeing them. They start thinking about their backswing or thinking about what they're doing in the downswing. And that hamster wheel can start going. And usually the mistake was made before they ever swung. And so same thing goes with your audience. I really prescribe for every player, especially at the club level, to have a really great home base and revisit home base all the time to make sure all of that stuff is in working order so that the big stuff never happens. If something's off at home base, you're basically downloading a virus into your golf swing. All golfers are compensators. The best players in the world are master compensators. That's why they're the best in the world. They are better at compensating than we are. And so if something's off, they'll figure out a way around it. And so will the everyday player at the club. The everyday player at the club or the weekend warrior is going to make a mistake and then figure out a compensating move to make the ball fly the way that they're anticipating it flying. And when they do that, that's when the virus is downloaded into the swing.